G'day guys, welcome to the channel. So from the title of today's video, what I am going to be doing today is going through the very basics of learning to fly a radio control helicopter. Now this video is going to be aimed at the absolute newcomer to model helicopters. The reason why I decided to do this, I thought, well, I've done a few how-to videos, so why not do it with radio control helicopters. Now I want to make it clear right from the beginning now that I don't do 3D flight. My brain doesn't think fast enough to do that. But what I'm going to show you is how to start to learn how to hover and move around. I'm by no means no Tarek Al-Sadi. If you don't know who he is, I'll leave a link to one of his videos in the description, and you can see some of the crazy stuff he can do with model helicopters. But I'm by no means a 3D pilot. I just like to casually fly around. Now, one of the things I notice with a lot of the newer helicopters today is they have a lot of safety features, which is good, don't get me wrong. They've got what's called stability mode and like an anti-crash feature, things like that for newcomers. The problem with those things is they do tend to give you a bit of false confidence, and they will teach you bad habits as well. So what I'm going to do today is, with my trusty goblin buddy here, is I'm going to show you how, well, the first thing I'm going to show you is how to get a feel of the helicopter and learn how to hover. Alright guys, so one of the first things we do before we even think about any form of flight is we want to make sure everything is working properly and the controls are working properly and so on and so forth. So what I've done is I've connected the battery, it's powered up. The fly ballast unit on this, I'm using a MSH Brain 2 for those playing at home. I've made the fly ballast unit has done its calibration. So what we'll do now is make sure that it is in throttle hold mode, so the motor won't spin up. So we'll make sure that the swash plate is working. Yep. Alright, that's working nicely. The tail rotor controls are working nicely. Now also make sure that the fly ballast unit is working as it should be. So when I pitch forward, the swash plate should go back. Now forward. Now it should go right, left. That's good. And we check our tail rotor to see if it's moving. Yes. Alright. So now that we've done that, now what we'll do is we'll get ready for our first flight, or our first attempt at spinning up the rotors, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, so what we're going to do now is, when you are going to teach yourself to fly, unless you have an instructor with you, when you're learning to fly, it's always good to have your helicopter facing the way that you are facing. That way, when you're learning to hover, left is left, right is right, forward is forward, and so on and so forth. Because unlike an aeroplane where you're constantly moving forward and you're just basically doing what's called bank and yank, with a helicopter it can get a little disorientating. So always make sure that, like this, you always have the tail pointing towards you. That way it's facing the way you're looking. So what we're going to do now is we are going to spool up the rotors, and what we're going to do is get a feel for what it's like on the ground. So we will normal mode. Timer is on. Alright, so we'll bring the throttle up. And what you want to do while it's on the ground, like anything, like an real airplane or even a car, you don't just yank on the sticks. You give it a little bit of movement. So you can feel it. So it goes a bit forward. You feel it going back. You can feel it moving side to side. You're going left, you're going right. Just little movements, so you can get a feel for it. Now, it's always best to have your wind direction either facing towards you or behind you. It's preferred if you have the wind coming from behind. That way, if something goes wrong, the wind will blow your helicopter away from you. So what you want to do now is slowly bring up your pitch and get a feel for it. Slow movements. And you feel it starting to lift off. And just come back on the ground. You can see how it moved forward. So now you'll want to, if it does it again, you'll know you need to pull back a little bit. Little things like that, just little movements, not a lot. And you can see how the tail's starting to turn, not be in line with us, so you'll want to learn how to give it a little bit of rudder. Don't be afraid at the moment, these are just little steps. Just like that. It was only shaking because it was trying to fight the grass. So just little steps. Now see how it pitched to the right there a little bit? So you'll want to learn how to counteract it. And this is why you only take little steps. And if you feel like something's about to go wrong, hit your throttle cut. Because if it starts to pitch over, you'll have an awful mess. So it's best to hit the throttle cut, and if it falls over, it'll instantly come to a stop. And may be damaged, but the damage won't be absolutely severe. So we'll start again.
Normal mode.
So you want to keep doing this for a little while. And keep doing it for as long as you feel comfortable, until you feel the confidence to get it to hover. And like I said, little movements. A lot of the modern helicopters are pretty good. They're quite stable, unlike the old flybarred units. And this is what you want to keep doing, just practice. Now that, say for instance, you've gotten better at that now, and you're learning how to hover, so what we'll do is we will get it up in the air. Okay. So now it's in the air, and you can get it to hover, and you're moving it around a little bit, you know, not quite smooth. So what you want to do is pick a spot in the distance and learn to keep it in line with that. So for instance, we've got these hay bales, so I'll raise it up. And what you'll want to do is learn to keep it within those hay bales, so to speak. So you can see the hay bales there, so it's drifting off, so we learn to move it from side to side. Just small movements, not a lot. And trust me guys, this will take a little while. Because what you want to do, it's not just your side to side movements or your back to back, but also your up and down. And with my yammering, the battery's going to be going flat. So what you want to do is keep it in line with whatever you're focusing on. So with those hay bales there, and it'll take some time, but small movements, you know, no big movements. Just like that. And trust me guys, once you get the hang of it, it's quite easy. Alright, so my alarm's going off, so now when we come into land, bring it in nice and slow. And remember to hit your throttle cut as you land on the ground. Alright, so that's that part. So the next part is flying around. Alright guys, so the next thing what I'm going to demonstrate now. So we've practiced with hovering and so forth. So now one of the things we'll need to get used to now is forward flight. Now what I'm going to demonstrate, I do not expect you to do this right away. This is something that will take some time, because with a helicopter, as I mentioned, when you're learning to hover, keeping it straight, facing the same way as you, will help you with your movement. So forward is forward, right is right, so on and so forth. So forward flight is something that will take some time to get used to, and don't feel the need to master it in the very next flight. But what I will demonstrate is simple forward flight and use of turning. Like I said, don't expect to be able to do this straight away, but it is something that will take some time, and like they say, practice makes perfect. So I will demonstrate.
Normal mode.
So we will throttle up. Alright, so let's get it into a hover. Okay, so what you'll want to do is small movements. And keep it at a decent height. You can even go backwards. Because one thing you gotta learn is that when it comes towards you, everything is opposite. So for instance, like this here, I go left, that's left, right is right, and so forth. So that's right, that's left. It's a bit windy at the moment, so you have to bear with me. So when you're flying and it's coming towards you, everything is the opposite. So when you go right on the stick, it will be the opposite. So what I'll do is I'll take it away. So when you push forward, you got to do what feels the opposite, if that makes sense, because everything is opposite. So when it goes away from you, when you're looking at it like that, your controls are what you put inputting, and it will respond to that. Whereas when it comes towards you, you have to do the opposite, because and this is where you can get disorientated. And so this is what you'll want to do, small movements. And you'll want to just practice doing that, just going back and forth. And if you do get disorientated, it's always good to have it facing the same way as you. So what I'll do is I'll take it over. Okay. Then I won't get disorientated, but just for example's sake. So I'll bring it around. It's coming towards you. Oh, which way is what? Turn it so it's facing that way. Then that way you can gather your thoughts. Then that way, because you know that that's forward, that's back, that's right, that's left. And that way you can get the hang of your orientation. You can get reorientated basically. So this is all you need to do really to begin with. And just like I said, small movements. You don't have to be aggressive on the sticks. You know, with practice that'll come later. And one thing you need to remember too, because if you have experience with a model airplane, a helicopter doesn't respond the same way as an airplane. So you got to remember, you got to use more rudder. You got to rely on your rudder to turn more. And you'll notice too, because you may be able to hear the wind picking up. See how the wind is pushing it towards me? It's one of the things you'll need to practice with your helicopter is when you got wind, see how it's pushing it towards me? You'll need to learn how to counteract that wind. Oop, I just chopped up the butterfly. And this is all you'll need to do for the moment. And like I said, don't expect to be able to do this straight away. It will take practice. And if you feel the need to just do small movements like that, that's fine. Alright, that's the timer done, so let's bring it down. Well guys, there you have it. That there, as I said, some very basic movements with a helicopter. Like I said, this is just the basics on learning how to fly and how to control a radio control helicopter. And like I said just a little earlier, don't expect to master this, in a couple of flights. Everyone is different. Some people can pick it up really well, some people might take a little bit longer than normal. But don't feel the need to master it straight away. It's something that you want to practice and keep practicing. Unlike airplanes, excuse me, the wind is blowing stuff around. Unlike airplanes, where obviously you will need to learn how to fly, not as much practice is required, unlike a helicopter. The more you practice at it, the better you'll get at it. And in time, you'll be able to fly, and if you want to push yourself, do aerobatics. Like I said, this video is aimed at the complete newcomer to this hobby and just starting out and wanting to get an idea on how to fly. So if you have questions, guys, please don't hesitate to comment down below. I will do my best to answer them to the best of my ability. And until then, guys, enjoy your hobby and cheers.